Hello, I'm Mary. This is the Harboring Light, where I give a conservative perspective. So, feedback is important. Feel free to reach out to me either through email, Substack, X, and of course, fill up those comments in YouTube. It would be greatly appreciated. And also, it would be appreciated to share, like, and subscribe on YouTube as well. And also give me a ratings on some of the podcast platforms that I'm on. So, Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Deezer, just to name a few. So this episode is centering around gingerbread cookies. So last year, I talked about gingerbread houses. This year, I'm going to talk about gingerbread cookies, their history, and I'm, of course, going to start out with the AI-generated response to what I asked. And then I'm going to go into more depth with an article about it, the history behind the gingerbread cookie. All right, here we go. Da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum. Do 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 da 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 dum da 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 dum da da dum dum ding dong dum. All right, so here is the AI generated response. It goes as follow. Okay. So, it says this. Ancient origins. Gingerbread's history dates back to ancient Egypt, where honey cakes were used for ceremonial purposes around 1500 BC. The ancient Greeks also baked gingerbread-like treats around 2400 BC. During the Middle Ages, gingerbread spread across Europe, particularly in Germany, where it was known as, forgive me for the pronunciation of this, bear with me, Leben Erskine. Monks, and with their baking ovens, their conventional baking ovens, they baked gingerbread as a snack for pilgrims using a recipe that included ground almonds, stale breadcrumbs, rose water, sugar, and ginger. So, Elizabeth I, she is tied to the traditional cutting gingerbread into man, particularly how you get the human figure and how you get the name Gingerbread Man. So it is attributed to her. So according to legend, she had her cooks mold gingerbread into the shapes of her favorite quarters and served them to dignitaries as a sweet treat. German influence. And I have German listeners out there. I appreciate you all. I'd like to know what y'all think about the aspects of holiday foods, particularly the origins and everything else that's linked to your country. I'd like to know. Feel free to reach out to me. And I'll list my links where you can reach out to me in this episode. All right, so Germany played a significant role in shaping gingerbread's development. The city of Nuremberg became famous for its gingerbread. The master bakers creating elaborate designs and shapes. The tradition of making gingerbread houses popular during Christmas originated in the 16th century Germany. Hold on, my dog. Just a minute. Let me go see what he wants. Manny. Come on, Manny. Come on. Manny. Excuse me. Manny. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Come on, sweetie. All right. There you go. All right. Back to it. So, evolution and globalization. Over time, gingerbread spread to other parts of Europe, including England, where it became a staple during Christmas. The cookie form, particularly the gingerbread man, became popular in the United States, often served as a Christmas treat. Today, gingerbread is enjoyed globally with various regional twists and traditions. So it says in summary, the origin of gingerbread cookies can be traced back to ancient Egypt and Greece. What's significant, and I had a Greece listener, but also, looking, just like I would just like to know what y'all think, international listeners, what y'all think about the aspect of holiday foods. So, again, reach out to me, and I'll have those links for you. With significant influences from medieval Germany and England, and eventually globalization, and which evolved into the diverse forms we enjoy today. So here are some of the sources. So the spruceeat.com, marthastewart.com, charles.com, Wikipedia, and Kathleen Lane Cakes, just to name a few. All right, so I'm going to give my thoughts, and I'm going to extend my thoughts, towards the end. And then after that, I'm going to go into more depth and everything else. All right, here we go. Okay, so my thoughts, just jump right in here. So as I had said all the time and express all the time on Fridays, food is an expression of what people value, what people, and to an extended extent, to what people are saying in their culture. And so when you get in the cuffs, and I'm going to touch on the surface level, and I'll get into more details about it as my final thoughts. And so when you get in the cuffs of everything about gingerbread, particularly how it evolves and what it means throughout time, throughout history, it is a bigger emphasis of, again, revolving back to the aspect of food matters. All right, so I'm going to get into the facts, and then after I get into the facts, more details, I'm going to wrap everything up with my final thoughts. Here we go. And of course, the source will be provided for you in this episode. So, let me pull it up here. All right, so I'm going to go. So in England, gingerbread may be referred to. So as I was saying, the first documented trade of I didn't really say this, but let me go back to this. And then I saw another article, so it looks like I'm going to have two sources. So the first documented trade of gingerbread biscuits dates to the 17th century, where they were sold in monasteries, pharmacies, and town square farms markets. In medieval England, gingerbread was thought of to have medicinal properties. 100 years later, the town of Market Drayton in Shropshire, UK, became known for its gingerbread, as it proudly displays on their town's welcome sign. The first recorded mention of gingerbread being baked in towns, that is goes all the way back to 1793. However, it was probably made earlier, as ginger was stocked in high street businesses from the 1640s. Gingerbread became widely available in the 18th century. All right, so going back, during the 13th century, gingerbread was bought to sweeten by German immigrants. In the 15th century, Germany, that is, a gingerbread guild controlled the product. Early references to the Baston Abbey show shows how the Swedish nuns were baking gingerbread to ease indigestion in 1440. Hold on, sweetheart. I know that doesn't work, baby girl. Okay? 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 Won't you sit down right now and be quiet, okay? Be a good girl. See, it's not working. See, well, I got it here. I think it's working now. Look. See? Look, come here. Look. I fixed it. Okay? Look. There you go. All right, so it was the custom to bake white biscuits and bake them as window decorations. So, and going back even further, gingerbread was brought to Europe in 992 by the Armenian monk Gregory of Nicolopus, or Gregory Maker. He left Nicolopus, Pompeii, to live in Bondery, France, near the town of Pitherish. Forgive me for the pronunciation. He stayed there 7 years and taught gingerbread making to French Christians. All right, so originally the term gingerbread referred to preserving ginger. It was then referred to a confection made with honey and spices. Gingerbread is often used to translate. It is used to translate in different terms, which means in French, which the translation of that literally means spiced bread, and different terms, German, Leckenchen, and for instance, is preferably literally pepper cake, and Leppenchen, excuse me for the pronunciation of that, trying my best, is specified in the German language. It can mean Leben, life, or a loaf, while the last term comes from the wide range of spices used in this product. All right, so let's go on to the United States. So in the United States, this form of gingerbread is sometimes called ginger cake, or gingerbread cake, or ginger cake, to distinguish it from the harder forms. So, with the French, it is somewhat similar, though with the French influence, the French way of doing things, it is somewhat similar, though generally slightly drier, and it involves honey rather than the tentacle origin French bread, and does not contain ginger. Now, however, in Germany, gingerbread is often made in two forms: a soft form or a harder form, particularly associated with carnivals and street markets such as the Christmas markets that occur in many German towns. The hard gingerbread is made in decorative shapes, which are then further decorated with sweet icing. And I can understand that because, if it's soft, kind of talking from a baker's point of view, if something's soft, you can't really, for the aspect of the shelf life and the aspect of decorating, be hard to do, because as far as collecting, baby girl, as far as spoiling and not being able to preserve itself all that well. So that's quite unique, and that's innovative, how people thought about that. That's neat. The tradition of cutting... What, baby? It's not working still? It's not working again? I think it's out. I'm sorry. What? Well, there we go. I guess not. Okay, so the tradition of cutting gingerbread into shapes takes many other forms and exists in many countries. A well-known example being gingerbread men. Traditionally, these were dunked in port wine. So in the Nordic countries, the most popular form of ginger confection is the pepper cocker, Norwegian. This is the term in Norwegian. So, pepper cocker, Swedish, and the and then Danish, and then in Iceland, and then in Finnish. And also, we're including the terms and how gingerbread is seen in the Baltic countries, the Latvian, or Estonia. So they are thin, very brittle cookies seen in these countries. So biscuits that are particularly associated with the extended Christmas period in Norway and Sweden. So the pepperkakor or pepparkakor are also used as window decorations. These are a little thinner and usually decorated with glazed candy. Many families bake these as a tradition and with their kids. So the English form would be referred to as ginger biscuits rather than gingerbread. So in Switzerland, gingerbread confection known as Bibber is typically a 3/4 inch thick rectangular gingerbread cake with a marzipan filling. Bibber are famously from the cantons of St. Gallen. In retrospect, Bibber are artificially adorned with images as the St. Gallen Cathedral by engraving or icing. In the Netherlands and Belgium, a soft and crumbly gingerbread called pepperkakor, for instance, is popularly served at breakfast time or during the day, thickly sliced and often with butter on top. So gingerbreads are known in Russia. The most famous gingerbread there are baked in the ancient cities. So in Poland, gingerbreads are known as the peppernica. Forgive me for this. It's the most, for the pronunciation that is, I'm trying my best here. The most famous are called the Torun gingerbread, a traditional Polish bread that has been produced since the Middle Ages in the city of Torun. It was a favorite delicacy of Chopin when he visited his godfather, Frederick Florian Schachberg, in Turin during one of his school vacations. That's quite interesting with that fact there. So in Romania, gingerbread is called trucar dulce, and is usually coated with sugar glazing. So in Brazil, the type of cake is similar to gingerbread. It's known as pão de mel or honey bread. It can be as big as a coffee cake. Wow. Or bite-sized, and it is usually coated with chocolate. And I have some Brazilian listeners out there. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. I'd like to know what y'all think, too. Just chime in. And all of y'all, just chime in. My international listeners, feel free to do that. I really appreciate y'all. And I really appreciate y'all. Wait, let me say that again. I really appreciate all my listeners out there from abroad and, of course, America. Y'all just feel free to chime in to me. And, of course, the links to contact us through email or social will be provided for you. All right, so traditionally the cookie is big as a palm in the hand and round flat, covered in a thin layer of chocolate. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. So I'm talking about let me finish out. Okay, coffee cake or bite-sized, and it's usually coated with chocolate. So they are very popular locally. So here on to Bulgaria. So in Bulgaria, They call it made of honey, and traditionally the cookie is as big as a palm, as your palm of your hand. So it's round and flat, covered in a thin layer of chocolate. Other common ingredients include honey, cinnamon, ginger, and dried cloves. So no, I'm not done yet. So I'm going to go on to this other article here. If it'll allow me to. Okay, here we go. Okay. So this is from English Heritage, and it is a short history of gingerbread. So I'm just going to dig in a little bit deeper into it. So I'm going to touch on some of the facts that they say. And so in the medieval ages, gingerbread was not just by showing off to your guests. It was also served as practical purposes at feasts. Gingerbread was served as a sweet meat at the end of meals as a part of void or voidie. Initially, to void was the term used for clearing the table between courses. By the 5th century, the voidie described the sweet course served at the end of the meal to aid digestion and sweeten the breath. And that's quite interesting how that's understood with the aspect of ginger, how that can soothe your digestion purposes, and then inventing and thinking about different ways to make it more edible with the aspects of ginger, and to also with the natural effects that it does with cleansing the body. So by the 17th century, the use of honey would gradually be phased out when an alternative sweetener known as tirokol became widely available. As Britain expanded its colonial interest in the Caribbean and America, and I'm focusing in on the UK, of course, gingerbread is first thought of about the aspect of gingerbread in Greek and Roman, but how UK, particularly in England, it was more widespread and modernized, and then all the other countries, before. But the unique ties of how the UK, England spread itself to America with the aspect of how our founding fathers were British, and how those traditions came into America. And that's why I'm emphasizing in on here in England. So what it's saying. So, as the Britain expand its colonial interest in the Caribbean and America, so the price of sugar and of the tirokol would come down. These low prices had a high human cost. So with the expansion of the Caribbean plantations came to the exploitations, unfortunately, about this. So the common tirokol, later simplified the tirokol, would eventually replace honey with these medicines. And it's unfortunate with that, how that aspect about everything came about with trying to cut down costs. You get these unethical practices. And it goes to say, looking at that from a humanistic point of view and from a moral point of view, as far as, business practices are concerned, when you get in the aspects of slavery and so forth, bringing it to the forefront about the human condition. You got to make a decision, with that. You can always make money, but how are you making it morally? So is it easy to get money quickly by cutting corners and at the expansion of enslaving people and on the backs and their own people, unfortunately enslaving them? And is that worth it? Or is it worth it to be more moral and have a moral compass and a moral code with how you conduct your business? And that's something to think about too when the aspects of this. And so, as I was stating, honey was used in these medicines. It is also used to distill rum, as the production of tonical outstripped the demands of the distillers. It sold as a cheap, under-medicated sweetener and found its way into gingerbread. So breadcrumbs would also disappear from gingerbread. Recipes would be replaced by flour, as seen in the recipes below. I will link this for you if you're interested. And from the cookery notebook kept by Anne Bella Crown, born in 1656, and was the wife of Sir John Bella Crown, a judge and later member of Parliament for Brackley and North Hampshire. She began keeping a collection of recipes. Wow, I'm tongue-tied today here. Sorry about that. Collection of recipes shortly after her marriage in 1675. All right, so I have one interest here. Spark my thought process. To wrap this all up. Just live thinking here out loud, live soliloquy, but actually, play on that soliloquy, different aspects of thinking about it, soliloquy. So, bear with me here. Okay, cookies, and there, so there's not complete silence here. Okay, yeah. Let's see what I can find here. So, okay, quite interesting what this is saying on time.com, the magazine. So, all right, so it goes into more of the extent about okay, let's see what they're saying. So, harping in on the aspect about the English influence of, as I was saying, about how gingerbread takes its shape, and particularly tied to Elizabeth I. So in the 16th century, Elizabeth I's reign was known for elaborate royal dinners that included marzipan shaped like fruit, castles, and birds. So, but the queens also included a world gingerbread maker. She did do a banquet where she had gingerbread men made to represent foreign dignitaries and people in her court. Says this is quoted by Carol Levin, Director of Medieval Studies at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So, Says it was a creative time in history. After all, the English Renaissance was in full swing. William Shakespeare was writing plays such as the comedy Lovers, what, baby? Yeah, Lovers Labor Lost, and I had but one penny in the world. Though thus have it to buy gingerbread, is a quote from this. So the clown Costard quips. But it was also a time of great religious wars, and perhaps the gingerbread dignitaries would have been a part of what Levin calls the Queen's clever diplomacy at a time when Angelical Britain stood opposed of Catholic France and Spain. But the Queen wasn't the only person eating gingerbread men. Also during this time period, gingerbread men were dished out by folk medicine practitioners, often described as witches or magicians, who would create them as love tokens for young women. If they could get the man of their choice to eat the gingerbread, that man would be made for them. The idea was the man would then fall in love with the young woman, says Levin. And this is quite similar to the aspect of bobbing for apples, and I had said that previous Halloweens ago. Yeah, it's here. So how did they become something to eat around the winter holiday? The popularity of gingerbread during the holidays can be, at least in part, attributed to the belief that spices heated you up in the winter, says Michael Crodel, author of Sweet Invention, A History of Dessert. And gingerbread itself, even older than that, Dr. Crodel points out that some of the earliest versions of gingerbread did have ginger and were always a bread. Many of the earliest versions of gingerbread were basically honey cakes, as I was saying. So going back to ancient Greece and Roman men ate atomically correct, if you get what I'm saying, honey cakes before, engaging in their indulgences, if you get my drift. Many spices that were added would change over time as the popularity and availability of spices varied. Paul Friedman, author of Out of the East, Spices in the Medieval Imagination, and a professor of history at Yale University, likewise cites a recipe for don't do that
Okay.
gingerbread in the mid-15th century. So English cook manuscripts which does call for ginger. It has a chewy toffee-like consistency, something like candy it's associated with. All right, so as I had said already, but this briefly wraps it all up too, says, overall, the gingerbread traditions come from Germany, France, and the Netherlands, and the British Isles. Some English cookies were using sugar instead of honey by the end of the 16th century, and molasses by the mid-17th century. So, the addition of butter and cream gave rise to the 18th century recipes that very much resemble the modern gingerbread cookies of today. And this is all according to the Oxford Encyclopedia of Food and Drinking in America. All right, so I'm going to give my final thoughts. Here we go. That's because you gotta, hold on. Sorry, y'all, my baby girl. It's no more, baby. Okay, just play with this. Look. Okay, let's do that. Okay. All right, so my final thoughts here. All right, so as I was saying, as you were listening to the aspect of gingerbread. So To certain people, to certain cultures, to a certain extent, gingerbread means a whole lot of things. And so with the aspects of this, again, what are we saying about our society as far as our influence and our aspect of gingerbread? So, particularly a really good example of this is I'm going to focus in on, and I'd like to know what y'all think about Queen Elizabeth. So, at that time in history, people say now the patriarchy is so bad, but the matriarchy, look at that. There's a lot of bloodshed with that. And so there are some highlights. You just look at things for what it is. But it's quite interesting to how using gingerbread as a diplomatic way to prove a point of how you stand on certain issues politically. And so that also goes in deeper into the aspect of what I emphasize and what I say and what I talk about a lot on Friday with the aspects of how food is very quietly. Hold on, honey. Okay, just a minute. How food is rapidly important and how it is, whether people want to realize it or not. I think people, get that. But it is very important as on the arena or the atmosphere when we look on the outside and the surface level and then minor focus in on society. How people view food, use their food. They say a lot about their social stance about things. And so politically, when it formed is what is the gingerbread man is today is just seen as an aspect of holiday, something cute for the holidays, part of holiday tradition, part of holiday imagery, or what we think about when we eat Christmas food. But linking it back to what it originally is, it's quite interesting how that was used in a lesser extent as a means of a equalizer between different people. In that Elizabeth the First was seen as in her court, or trying to make the peace, I guess, so to speak. And so, again, this also links to the aspect of what's important to remember about the season of this holiday, too. Which, to a lesser extent, what I understand about the aspect of that, learning that information about the using gingerbread and when Elizabeth I was in reign as a diplomatic measure of saying what she's opposed of, saying about the other royalty and the other countries at war, and then that's in their court, hosting them for a party. Again, this links back to the reason for the season here is extending an olive branch and to what? Give care and share and understanding for differences and just being humble to people and just, being morally decent. And that's quite interesting how that interlaces into what is really the true origin of the modern day gingerbread. And that's something to look at. So, for this reaches the end of the Harvard Light is again, as I will reiterate, through the month of December. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and have a wonderful new year. And also, feel free to reach out to me. And, of course, those links will be provided for you to do so. All right, so this reaches the end of the Harvard Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye.